Hey Dobby, what are we learning about today? Oh, multi-step equations? Ooh. So I think it's safe to say Dobby's excited, but before we get to multi-step equations, we need to learn some quick facts about one and two-step equations. So whenever we solve an equation, we are going to be using reverse order of operations. So you guys know what PEMDAS is. That's how we go when we're working forwards. But when we're solving equations, we just want to undo what has been done. So we're going to work backwards. We're going to do addition and subtraction first, and then we're going to do multiplication and division second. And that's over here if you need to see that written. So let's just practice. Number one. First, we look for addition and subtraction. There's some addition and subtraction. And I'm going to ask myself, how do I get rid of plus 12? Well, the opposite of addition is subtraction, so I'm going to subtract 12 on both sides. Whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other side of the equals. 12 minus 12 is going to be 0. So I'm going to be left with x on this side, and 10 minus 12 is negative 2. So our answer is going to be x equals negative 2. So notice we're just trying to isolate the variable here. Same thing for number 2. We want to find any addition and subtraction. The opposite here, so whatever's being done to x is a negative 9. The opposite of that is plus 9. And do that on both sides. Negative 9 plus 9 is 0. Negative 2 plus 9 is 7. So x equals 7. Okay, here's number 3. I don't see any addition or subtraction. There are negative signs, but those are on the numbers. They're not operations. So then we're going to move on to step 2, which is that multiplication and division. So I'm going to ask myself, what is being done to x? Well, x is being multiplied by negative 7. The opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 7. Negative 7 divided by negative 7 is just 1. So we get 1x equals negative 56 divided by 7, or negative 7 is going to give us positive 8. Okay. Number 4, I don't see any addition or subtraction, right? So that's just a negative sign on the number. It's not an operation. So I'm going to look for multiplication and division. I don't see any multiplication, but this bar right there means that we're dividing. We're dividing x by 9. So we need to undo what's being done to x. So we're going to multiply both sides by 9. If I multiply 1/9 by 9, it goes away. So it's just 1x equals negative 4 times 9 is going to be negative 36. Okay, now let's look and see what happens when we have multiplication and division and addition and subtraction. So again, we're looking first for addition and subtraction. In number 5, I've got an addition operation right there. I've got to get rid of that first because we're doing reverse order of operations. So I'm going to do the opposite of adding 8, which is subtracting 8, which is going to give us 6x equals 42. Okay, but notice x is not by itself, so our goal is not achieved. We've got to do that multiplication and division. We've got to undo that 6 times x. So the opposite of multiplication is division. And we're going to do 42 divided by 6. So that's going to cancel out, and we've got x equals 7. Okay, same thing on the next one. I'm looking for that addition or subtraction. So I'm going to have to add 5 on both sides. And I get 2x equals 11 plus 5, which is 16. And then we're going to do the second step, which is undo multiplication and division. I'm multiplying by 2 there, so we're going to divide by 2. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. And 16 divided by 2 gives us x equals 8. I'm going to leave 7 and 8 for you guys to try. But let's look at what happens when we have a fraction involved. So notice on number 9, we do have some addition. So we have to get rid of that first. So minus 8 on both sides. which gives us x over negative 5 equals 3. And guys, don't freak out when you see a fraction. This just means, this division bar, that means that we're dividing. So we've got to undo that division by multiplying by negative 5 on both sides. So that will cancel out because it's technically 1 over negative 5 times negative 5. And we end up with, remember that's a multiplication sign, x equals 3 times negative 5, which is negative 15. Same thing on 10, we got to undo that subtraction with addition. So x over 2 equals 9 plus 7, which is 16. And again, that division bar just means we need to undo it with multiplication. So we're going to multiply by 2 on both sides. And 16 times 2 gives us 32. The last two guys are a little tricky because, yeah, there's addition and subtraction that needs to be undone, but notice they are not separate operations like they were up here. Okay, so they are trapped by that division bar. Okay, so whenever we see the line going all the way across, I like to think of those operations as trapped in a box. We can't undo those. Yes, we usually undo multiplication or addition and subtraction first, but if it's trapped in a box, we have to get it out of the box first. So here, that whole operation is being divided by 8. So I have to get it out of the box before I can undo it. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 8. That goes away, and I get x plus 11 equals negative 24. And now that that addition is out of the box, I can then get rid of it by undoing it. And I'm going to do negative 24 minus 11. Be very careful with your signs. So this number, we're subtracting a negative from a negative, so this should get even more negative. Okay, so if they're both negatives, we're going to combine the numbers and keep the sign. So x is negative 35. Same thing over here. That negative, or the subtraction, is trapped in a box, so we got to get it out of the box. We're going to multiply by negative 2. And I get x minus 5 equals positive 14. Now I can take care of that subtraction by adding 5 on both sides. And x is 19. So there's 1 and 2 steps. We will do multi-step in just a second.